What the audio level is on that. Hey. We're live. We're live. Hey, I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is Streaming Idiots coming to you live from a remote location. And as you can tell, we're not a polished production today, but you know, when have we ever a polished production? I am so delighted to be in the studios of RJ Murdoch. I'm going to bring RJ on in just a second. But before I did have a couple of notes that I wanted to share with you. If you're watching us on YouTube directly, we'd love to have you subscribe, number one, but we'd also love to have you come on over and join the chat room today. It's at easternshorebroadcasting.com, easternshorebroadcasting.com, and click Watch Live, and you can join in with the rest of the folks in chat, and they're out there having a good old time. Who knows what they're talking about? The last thing, the wife is with us today, and she says 2 tripods, 4 computers, 2 idiots, and 2 cameras. So that sounds like a pretty good summation. Before we go any further, though, I do want to thank those of you that have joined our Streaming Idiots Facebook group. It's open to join. Just go to, what is it, facebook.com/groups/Streaming Idiots. Probably should have had a URL prepared for that, but, you know, can't have everything when you're remote. But the folks that joined us from last week, thanks, and Lee, Elmar, Michael, Kay, Tony, Darren, Alan, Scott James, Billy, McKinley, Merle, Macy, Martin, what is going on here? Rice, Rick, Farrison, Tom, Tobias, and Santhosh. And then on YouTube, you got to watch these hired hands. We want to welcome new subscribers of G Networks, Durango, Rennick 64, Top 8 Media, Cinco Van Coolen, Jose Chavara, Robert Elliott, PhD, Canal dos Federación, True Stream, Steve Vaughn, Eric the Crack, and Marco Reese. Thank you for subscribing to YouTube. We love it. And thank you for following us and joining our Streaming Idiots Facebook group. I was reading through the Streaming Idiots Facebook group this morning and saw just some really great comments where people were asking for help on cameras and capture cards and software and how to blend different things together. So if you're looking for a community to join that can help you with those kinds of things, come on over, Streaming Idiots. It's facebook.com/groups/Streaming Idiots. Also, last week, there was a vMix Fun Time live show. A vMix Fun Time live show directly from Australia. They do them once a month. That was the January show, so who knows what they'll do in February. But they announced a very exciting new feature for vMix 19, and you will hear me talk about it until I'm blue in the face because I've been pushing for this for years. vMix 19 will include a guest interview feature, and that will be built into vMix, the ability to have the video and audio of a remote guest, not remote in a remote studio like this, but a remote guest all the way across the world that will come into your show live with one input. No more jiggling virtual audio cables to make things work and setting up mix minuses. And depending on what level of vMix you own, what level license, you can have 1, 2, or even up to 8 different guests. So it's going to be really exciting. Keep your eyes out for vMix 19 beta to be released this spring. We're hoping it'll be released before the National Association of Broadcasters Conference in Las Vegas in April. And by the way, I'll be there. Hope you'll be there too. So enough of that beginning stuff. I'm delighted to have with me today, or actually to be with my host, so that I can be the host, RJ Murdoch with EmeraldCoastTV.com. And gotta breathe here. Gotta breathe.
It's a little bit of a different setup.
Make a Scene Studios. Yeah. Yes, this is really cool. Check out this backdrop. This is so cool. He's going to tell you about it, and he's going to do a studio tour. But RJ, thank you so much for inviting me over today.
Well, Tom, I'm excited you finally got a chance to come on over here. I've been inviting you to come to some of the streaming games every once in a while, but then again, who wants to hang out for 2 hours at a local football game that's not even your own hometown? So I understand, not a problem. But this was kind of cool, and we'll talk a little bit about this whole setup here when we get a chance. And why I even came about doing it and avoided the whole green screen on all that. So not sure exactly the order, the pecking order of things that you want to talk about. It's your show. I'm just the guy who's switching the camera.
He says it's my show, and then he switches away from me.
I'm switching the camera. So
yeah, he's switching on his smartphone, and fortunately I have the same app on my smartphone, so I can switch my camera to me whenever I want it if I don't like how RJ's got it. RJ and I go way back to the VidBlaster days.
Oh yeah.
Golly, you know, those were great days. Why don't you get us both in the same shot at this one? There you go.
There we
All
go.
right.
Yeah. Well,
obviously, you can tell we've rehearsed this thoroughly. But RJ has been doing local community events and a lot of sports, a lot of basketball, a lot of football. And in fact, after the show today, we're going to pack up all his gear and go out, and he's going to show me how he does a basketball gig. So tell me a little bit about the basketball gig, and then we'll get into what you've got going on here in the studio.
The basketball gig. Well, I think I'm going to start back on how we even got started with the streaming as well.
Okay. Okay. So good place to start.
I'm going to take over for the most part. Back in 2011, all my cameras I've always done multi-camera shoots. I think I had a Ventronics MX1. Everything was running S video cable because the quality was better. But at the point, by 2010, I could just see everything was going to HD. I'm like, well, how do I... Yeah, everything that was HD was still very expensive. And so I wanted to find a way to be able to... so I started trying to build things. I figured, well, the first thing I should do is get two cameras, two HD cameras. And I was able to get a small little loan from my dad. He helped me out for about $5,000. I got two nice Sony NX70s. And I picked those at the time because I was considering the possibility of sports, and those cameras without the microphone attachment are actually waterproof. They can get rained on. I actually worked with one shoot out over at the golfarium over at Panama City. I think it's called Golf World. And I shot for an hour around the dolphin pool in the rain with that camera with no problem at all. We should have set up a two-shot. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Some of your reactions are pretty great. Unless
I'm just a great reactor.
I started with the cameras, but I was still having to do composite out because actually the cameras didn't have S-video. So I had to find a way to do a switching. So I wanted to build a computer. I wanted to go software switching.
I'm paying attention to him.
Software switching. Well, I'll just put the camera on me. They can't see you. So I was looking for something that I could build that would allow me to take care of some of the problems I always have with switching. And that's, a lot of times, I would do a miss key because I am trying to get an input, and I hit the wrong input by accident. And I said it would be great to be able to just kind of see what I want and touch it. So I wanted to build a touchscreen switcher. And that's how I ended up getting into VidBlaster. So I ended up taking my my three camera setup, and I got a picture I can show you right here. We'll put it on pics, and that's how my setup was. Where I had my three cameras. I actually had my my two S-video cameras, my VX1000s and Sony's, and then the NX70. The other one happened to get broken at the time of this shoot, but you could see this was my portable desktop computer in an Hitachi camera case that I used to put the monitor in the case itself, and it was all packed up, and I would be hauling this thing around. Plus, I'm the only guy I know who has a three camera setup all on one tripod. So I have the tripod, the monitor, everything is all right there. And so that was my start into it, and at the time VidBlaster seemed like it was the right choice, because with that touchscreen monitor I had, I can actually go ahead and touch the input I wanted. But the problem I was always dealing was interlace video. That's why I learned I got to get away from interlace, go progressive, because it just doesn't look good.
Doesn't stream well.
Stream well as well. And then it was also just motion quality. So I ended up starting out that way, but then ended up getting a Blackmagic production switcher. And so everything I started doing was with that. And then I started doing sports. And again, I was doing the Vid Blaster with the sports. Starting off with football, that was the first try at it. I had worked with a local high school here, Choctawhatchee High School, with their media students, and they manned my cameras. And we had that same setup you saw before up in the press box, and we were just switching back and forth. And it was live streaming. But I was still using the Blackmagic production switcher, and I was using VidMaster just for be able to do some overlays and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It still wasn't quite as good as I wanted to be, and there was things and money I invested into it, thinking that I was going to have some improvements on it, and it still didn't improve the smoothest quality. Because the problem is, I was giving the videos to Channel 6. Local cable channel,
right,
so they can play it back. So I could not have it look like it was a web video. It had to be broadcast quality.
Right. So
from the production switcher, I was recording onto a little Ninja Atomos 2, and that way I was coming directly up there, 10-bit video. It all looked good. At the same time, we're streaming with no internet connection from a mobile hotspot. So that's where I was basically using VidBlaster for my scoreboard overlay and for the streaming aspect of it. But and then I had saw vMix before, but it didn't at the time. It's kind of like, yeah, but you have to use the preview window, and I can't switch it before. I did not know how. I mean, it's such a Swiss Army knife. I can't believe how much you can do, little nooks and crannies that even while you were here, were learning.
Time out.
Okay.
The guys in the chat room are just beating you up about your mic.
Why, is it too high, too low?
No, you got to switch it over to your other.
Is it making crackling noises?
Yeah, it's got to switch over to your other sleeve.
Well, it was
because you're turning towards me and you're turning away from the mic.
That's right. I knew that.
This is live. This is live, and this is a case of, I pack all my bags and I come over here, and RJ and I are trying to blend two studios into one in 90 minutes, and we got it 80% right.
For the most part.
For the most part. So we'll let the guys see if that's right. And
because you're right. I'm facing you, and I always do that when I'm.
And Anderson doesn't like the cord, so he's just going to have to live with the cord today. But Amnon is saying, and it's a joke going way back to the beginning of his shows, Computers 2K Now, which started out as a radio show and then became an internet show. And there was a former radio engineer that was on that show and used to always joke, audio is not important.
Oh, no, audio is absolutely important. It's one of the most important things, and that's always the hardest thing. I mean, if you don't get the audio right, the video doesn't look good at all.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you guys doing that. Keep me honest. That's what you're here for. He's got his glasses on. I've got mine off, so he could see the chat room. I'm not looking at it. So VidBlaster. Somebody had mentioned it to me. I had tried it out, and I kind of thought about it. I was like, okay, it's not quite there yet. But then it got to a point where I really needed to make sure actually, it was the streaming capability on VidBlaster was much more reliable. So I ended up switching to that, and then also I started utilizing it for the scoreboard and being able to do scoreboard and stuff like that. And then it got to be where it seemed like it was pretty smooth. The video was getting pretty smooth. Plus all that, the computers have gotten faster and everything else. So that's what kind of got into me. I started doing the football games. I've done I did some cage combat, or the mixed MMA. We would set that up on the side, and I would be putting it up on the screens for people to check out as well. We get into and then I ended up. Somebody asked me about doing instant replay for a first-time NCAA tournament that we were going to have at the college over here. And
this was basketball.
And they were wanting to be able to do, somebody to be able to do replay and if possible be able to live stream it. So that was my foray into getting into basketball, since I had some experience with the college. I got a pick set up over here. This was last November for the third time the tournament had come over here, and I think that may be Iowa out on the field right now, but still. I was out there right in the press box, and the referees would come for me and ask for the replays. But at the same time, I would also stream it live to folks as well. So,
you were getting into the game as well as streaming the game.
Well, and I got into, I'm not even a sports guy. I basically, my wife's a huge Gator fanatic, but I don't normally watch it as much. That's careful. However, I found that when it came to live streaming, sports was the thing, because people wanted to see it right then and there. And
yes.
And that's, zoom in all the way up to today. That's one thing I love about the YouTube Live, is the fact that before I used to do the live streaming, then they had it recorded. I would have to go back, re-encode it, encapsulate it, upload it. It would be like the next morning if I had time, or the next day before I finally get it uploaded.
Yep.
And by that time, nobody wants to watch the entire thing. They rather just take highlights.
Well, by then they already know what the outcome was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, and numbers at first used to be kind of big, but now they're anywhere from 60, 70, 80 alumni folks, or people who can't make it. But now I'll get the same thing, and as soon as the stream is over and you turn it off, YouTube is live. It's available right there immediately. So that from 70 people watching it that evening, the next morning I've got 800 people who have rewatched it again, 400 to 800 people. So that made a huge difference when it came to the sports streaming and what we can do with stuff like that. So I don't know if I got off track from your original question, getting into sports streaming. We're going to try to do a show probably in about 2 or 3 weeks from now, because he's going to sit here and shadow me tonight for the basketball game, and you'll get a chance to see all the little tricks of the trade, so to speak, so that we can be able to show that to you.
Folks, if you're just joining us, and I hope you've been here from the very beginning, but this is Streaming Idiots. I'm Tom Sinclair. You have joined us in the middle of a show that's from a remote location. We're coming from beautiful Fort Walton Beach. Do you have some Fort Walton Beach pictures?
Probably.
The beaches here in Fort Walton are just the most beautiful beaches in the whole wide world. The sand is just sugar white. The water is emerald green. It's known for its beautiful beaches. So if you're thinking about a place, I think Paul Richards from PTZ Optics is coming down to Destin in April or May. So if you're thinking about a vacation, you really need to get down this way. If you're watching us on YouTube, there we go. There we go. There's the beautiful emerald green waters. Yeah. Of the Gulf Coast.
And yeah, there's the white sand.
Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. That's the Chamber of Commerce stuff right there.
Exactly.
But if you're watching us on YouTube, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com right now and click the Watch Live button, and you can watch us again, but you'll also have the benefit of the chat room. There are about 40 or 50 folks in chat that are chatting about and helping us with our microphones and things like that. R.J. Murdoch, my guest, but I'm really his guest because I'm in his studio, is going to take us on a tour of his studio here in just a minute, but he's been describing for us how he got into live video back in the good old days of vid blasters and hardware switchers and on standard definition and all that stuff. And can you look back and you say, why? I mean, as you look back and see where we came from.
Oh, yeah. 1993, I was working on my master's in instructional technologies, and at that time, desktop video was just coming out. So we used to be able to do postage-size video, and then you had to have special hardware to expand it to a full screen so that you could possibly record it, that output. And the amount of dollars that went in there. So I've been in the game for quite a while, and I got into doing multicam stuff because of theater.
Ah, okay.
I got to there was back in '96. There was a show that I wanted to do that had 3 actors only. That was it the entire time, and at one scene, like half of Act 2, there was an actor on this side of the stage and an actor on this side of the stage. And with just one camera, it was crazy because they were carrying on a conversation and you didn't want to just go zoom back and forth.
Right, right.
And so that's when I got my first Vidtronics mixer, and I ended up doing 2 cameras and started learning. And that's how I got into multicam, doing that type of stuff there. So I've been doing a lot of stage stuff. You know, the one thing that's interesting about vMix that I use it, that most people probably don't as much, is how much I use it for like conferences or meetings in groups like that. I use it for AV support. It is tremendously successful and helpful over AV because I see so many people, they'll come up with their laptop and then you'll see the full desktop screen, and then they'll look at their files, and then they'll double click a video file, and then you've got the media player with the bar underneath hanging out and stuff like that. And I love the fact that I can just go ahead and set all that stuff up beforehand in vMix, and it's a fade between backgrounds. So I do it. I also started doing the local Chamber of Commerce, their First Friday coffees. I saw that they needed some support with their AV. I said, hey, can I do it? And at the same time, would you mind if I recorded it? So I was setting up my Blackmagic production switcher, doing a 2-camera back and forth wide shot, and being able to zoom in on people that in the audience, stuff like that, and up on stage. But at the same time, I was using vMix to go ahead and do my 4th output to my production switcher, and going to the projection screen to be able to put any videos that they have, PowerPoint slides, stuff like that. So it's probably one of the little known use, but I recommend anybody does AV stuff, if they're not already using something like Power Presenter Pro for Mac, or there's really not that much on the Windows side that's kind of similar like that, but still they're all like PowerPoint driven, and it bugs me when people embed video on the PowerPoint and then they don't think about full size and stuff like that. But I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of things that I do, there's things that I want to do with the display outputs that would be great to be able to smoothly transition displays, almost like having an additional mixer within vMix just for your output, and be able to give you some transitions. Speaking of outputs, should we change the background? Will it work? Because I don't see full screen listed on here.
Change the background, and then let's go on a studio tour.
Well, why don't you go ahead and I'm going to go hit full screen over here so I can change that background.
Okay. And
I'm going to put it on you.
All right. All right. As you can tell, this show is totally impromptu, and that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. Yeah, there we go. And RJ has got 6, what are these, 55-inch TVs?
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the widescreen shot here. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk. You want to talk about the studio?
Talk about the studio. Let's talk about the studio.
Okay. So what happened was, why am I set up in this, and why am I not using a green screen? This was pretty exciting. About 3 months ago, the chairman of the CEO of the chamber, the local chamber, saying, "Hey, RJ, you've been doing great stuff with the chamber, blah blah blah. There's an opportunity coming up. You know, Cox Cable is no longer going to do our talk shows for us. They're not going to do it for the city, for the county, for the chambers. They stopped doing it for free for the college a couple of years ago. They've been charging the college $600 a show to do their little 30-minute show for their cable.
$600 a show.
Right, right. And then so they, as of 2017, they were going to cut it out completely. And they're like, you know, so they wanted to charge us, you know, and I got a quote, so they said now they're charged like $1,100 just to do one of their half-hour shows.
Oh my goodness.
Can you get it cheaper? Find a way. Maybe you can get all these clients, the cities, the Destin, Fort Walton Beach, the county, Okaloosa County, the both chambers from Destin and Fort Walton, the Economic Development Council, and the college, and they do 2 shows, 2 different types, a sports show as well as an Outlook show. So
wow. Wow.
I knew I could do it because I've always done 3-camera shoots before, and I did a talk shows, and I'll show you probably a little bit about that later. Probably not. We're running out of time. We got a lot to cover.
Yes.
So Cox Media had a large 30 by 30 studio to work with, and they would bring in sets and stuff like that. And I didn't have the space for sets. Actually, I used to have a home studio. I mean, I used to have a large 30 by 30 studio before, and I found that most of the time all my jobs are at other people's locations, so I got rid of the studio and all the overhead, and I started working from home, and I had a nice little space back there as well, a little 20 by 20 space, which worked really well. Bottom line is, I moved, I lost that space, I no longer have that. I have a small skinny half room as an office, but I still do on location thing. The cost factor when it comes to the multi-camera setup is 3 to 4 hours, maybe setup time. Bring everything in, set up the lighting, set up the curtains in the background that we have up here. I'm not sure if you can see this from right now, but all these back curtains are from when I do the talk shows, just repurposing them over here. And without the space to store it, I thought, well, the better thing to do is, they started doing just a little monitor behind each of the individuals. Why don't we just go another step forward? And, oh, I should bring up Google Drive. Let me pull that up here. Best, there we go, both of us. So I started out with 4 monitors in portrait mode. And I am sure I probably have it in here somewhere that I can probably show. In the meantime, well, actually, I can do better than that. I can show the video of it. Duh. There we go. Smart thinking, RJ. So I'll show you what ended up happening. I'm going to show a video of an actual shoot that we did just for the chamber, for the Destin chamber, just a little while ago. I had a nice little opening, blah, blah, blah. I got that from Cox. But I had 4 monitors in portrait mode, just like this. And it allowed me to be able to create an individual digital backdrop for each different type of show. So now the set, it had nothing to do with what kind of props you brought in. It all comes down to the images. And at the time, I was just using something called Display Fusion to be able to span an image across all the monitors so that it'd be one seamless image. And then I would have to go ahead and then tailor it in Photoshop so that I can get the lettering so that they're not over a bezel. As you can see over here, the bezels to work with. So the cool thing about it, it almost looks like a window. And even though I could have done green screen, when it comes to working with your clients and stuff like that, I always thought it would be kind of neat to be able to have their videos or PowerPoint slides show up overhead as well, and they can actually see it, or if we show a video, they can actually turn around and see it. As an example, we could pull in a video and put it into that screen. Now I had to do some tweaking in vMix to work this, and we'll talk a little bit about that because I've got an assignment for Martin. But still, it was kind of a neat way of doing it. And with a simple switch, I can just change whatever the backdrop is. So, the fact that I was able to...
Wait. And he's doing this in vMix.
Yeah, everything's...
He's using vMix. The vMix that we are recording, that we are producing the show with today, is also doing the backdrop at the same time.
So we're going to take this GoPro camera and we'll walk around the studio a little bit here in just a second. I'm just going to go ahead and finish up on what happened, figuring that cost basically is setup and teardown, and how much time is spent on production. So I worked it out so that I would do a 90-minute session for each 30-minute show. Give them 30 minutes beforehand, bring me all the media, we work out the lower thirds, we get everything all set up, then we bring their guest in and work it from there. And then they're out within 90 minutes and the show is done and they can take it with them. So it was kind of like a turnkey setup. And that's how I wanted kind of to set it up. Being that way, stacking those guys 2, 3, or 4 in one day, I just took whatever my normal day rate would have been for a camera operator. It would have been like $800, something like that. And just turned a 90-minute session into $200, $200, $200, which is still a lot better than $1,100 that they were going to be charged. So they were open for it. Now with the fact that I knew that I can get at least 5 or 6 different coming in, that's $1,000 a month.
Right.
I figured it'd be worthwhile if I could find a space. I happened to luck into this little 10 by 11 space. It's really small, but I work from home, but that's okay. This is just someplace I can just keep everything all set up and ready to go. And So for 150, I've got this room. There's a conference room right next door that I can use as a green room. I use that GoPro image that we had before, and I shoot that into the conference room so that the guests that are waiting for their next interview session can see what's going on. So they're not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. And it just worked out well. And then this looks expensive, but really these are the cheapest 48-inch monitors I can get. They were like $230, $240, $240. I had picked up 4 at one time, and they said, you know, I should have another 2 just in case I ever do the Matrox triple head to go, which is what is set up right now. I'm using a Matrox triple head to go, and we'll show that because I originally started out with a quad card. It was an NVIDIA NVS 410. And that had 4 outputs to it. And the reason I went with that and didn't start out with a triple head was because the triple head would not allow me to do the portrait mode with the monitors. So, but I only had 4 outputs, and I would like to be able to use the middle screen to be able to put video without that bezel. So to go 5 monitors, which I could have done, I would have to go and invest into another 6 output graphics card. And they're around $350. You can get them on eBay. Found out that there's an 8 graphics card monitor out there for about $600, the NVS 810. To back up, when I realized that the quad card I had only had a CUDA, the GPU core, it had 16 cores, and that was it. And I could see that it was affecting my vid blaster. And I was like, that's crazy. And I asked the guy on the screen, are we kind of stuttering in our mode here? Because the motion graphics going on. See if you can tell us about that or not, because of the issues I've been dealing with and trying to figure out.
Guys, how's the frame rate?
The frame rate, because on the monitor that we're looking at, it looks like it's still sporadic, but I just don't know whether they're smoothing that out there. I'm recording everything on my camera anyway, because we go back. It's a glitch. Is that a glitch or a glitchy?
Yeah, that's a glitch.
So let's get rid of the
Again, he says he enjoys listening. Yeah, he says it's buffering. Again, well, buffering could be an entirely different issue, but if you get some frame rate loss, copy audio, right, that could be a video from not internet. His stuff is rich. Okay.
it's really good by getting
Let's go back to the mountain scene.
and I'm going to put it on you for a second as you talk on.
Okay. And Jan is very subtly telling us that it's not working for him. Okay, well, obviously the technology is almost there to do this, and Jason needs to fully divide it and conquer. But interesting thing that he and I were talking about this morning, he had not attempted to do the NDI before. And so we set up to do NDI, and we're able to set it up pretty easily. And so right now we've got 3 computers doing NDI. The main PC, which is the one he was working on just a second ago, to put in this background, is doing the background, is switching all the cameras, doing all the audio, and then the laptop here in front is sending video.
NDI over there.
Is this wireless, or are you plugged in?
I'm actually wired.
Okay, so you're wired in. And then the output from his production PC is coming over to my laptop, and the laptop is streaming and recording. We didn't quite have the bandwidth today to stream to Facebook and YouTube and Periscope as normal, so we just picked YouTube to do today.
All right, so it looks like, I mean, as far as I can tell, the image is a lot smoother now, and my mouse was frozen for a while, so I know we were definitely either that or Windows was doing some sort of background check.
No. But this is the beauty of what we do on Streaming Idiots, is that we're not professing to be a polished show in that sense, but rather to say, okay, these are some of the kinds of issues that you can work with, that you can deal with, or that you can run into when you are pushing the envelope. And RJ is definitely pushing the envelope. There's no question about that. He can see it in his mind, and now he's trying to replicate it in real life. Somebody was asking just a second ago, why not do a green screen? And coming into a studio today, I was thinking the same thing. But I do think
it's the clients.
That's right.
Yeah, to them it's like they're green screen, like and green screen has a green screen look. So
well,
a lot of times, unless you
but
really got some good
go back to the clients for just a second, because when I walked in here and I saw these, my first thought was, wow, that's pretty cool. Had I walked in and saw a green screen, I would have said, yep, there's a green screen. So from a public outreach standpoint, it adds a little bit of sizzle. Does it do anything that a green screen wouldn't do? I don't think so. In fact, today we had to rearrange the lights a little bit to keep the glare off the screens.
Because this is the first time we had this set up. I mean, I just set this up because I wanted to impress this guy.
You haven't set it up before. Right.
So I was like, okay, let me get rid of the 4.
He wanted to impress me. I get it.
All right, so bottom line is,
Scott thought he was watching Streaming Geniuses. You need to change the channel on that one, Scott.
So
no.
Just a little over 200, I got these 230, 250. So,
okay.
So when I started out with the first 4, that was about $1,000.
Yep.
And on Best Buy, $1,000 you can buy no interest, cash or cash only for 24 months.
There you go.
So with that distribution, I'm able to, it's like, that's a no-brainer. I know I can pay it off in a couple of months, but I don't have to dish out that cash right away.
It's $20 a month.
And it was also a proof of concept because I had never done it before. I wanted to see whether it was even possible to do it.
Right.
So,
but one of the beauties is that you came into this studio with clients in hand. That you knew,
exactly.
You knew from a business standpoint that you were going to be able to cover your nut, and that anything outside of that was cream, and that word of mouth was going to be able to, people talk, and people that are in the same kinds of businesses tend to talk about their businesses together. Mm-hmm. And between what you're doing here in the studio, which you got to get that studio cam out and show us.
Oh, yeah, with the wide shot here. Well, and I started out with the multicam stuff about 2 years ago with a little show I wanted to create called Working Showbiz. And this was the very first time I ever set that up, and this is over at the college. Can I zoom? I can't zoom. Okay, cool. Yeah. Had a GoPro on the audience and a mic on the audience. I would turn, and everything was on a pan tilt, at least for not the 2 side cams, so that way I can adjust the images as I needed. That actually happens to be a local college student who's a big Hollywood actor now, Alan Richson, and he happened to be in town, and I said, "Hey, can you come on in?" So this, I had a big celebrity come in, and it gave me an opportunity to go ahead and set this up and try this out. And I'm switching and hosting at the same time. So you see on my lap, there's a tablet, and I'm using this to go ahead and use the web switcher, the IP switcher for the Blackmagic production switcher. So I'm using that, and I'm recording on all my cameras all the time. And I always record an audio source into the camera as well, so that way I always have an audio recording going on at the same time. So just a couple of little lessons learned. I've learned a long time in the past to be able to do stuff like that. So being able to do the multi-camera equipment I already had, teleprompter I've got set up. You probably see that in the corner over here. Right over here, so that way if we needed to, we could use a teleprompter.
Teleprompter? What's a teleprompter?
I just found these. I used to have in my old studios. I get rid of them. I just found these over at the Waterfront Mission for like, one was like $9, the other one was like $23. I was like, okay, yeah, no brainer, because it adds a little something for right behind you.
Little studio effect.
And it creates that still keeps that illusion of a window behind you. So yeah, you got all that going on behind you there. So it gives that a little bit more that essence there. So you're right. I had clients, and I worked out a contract for an annual contract, and they're like, "Yeah, no problem, we'll do that." And to try to see if I can stack them up. Now, are they stacking up exactly the way I want to? No, but I'm not having to tear everything down, other than maybe set up a camera or something like that. Everything is built into the audio. To the studio is staying here.
Right.
So. Is there anything else that I missed, or do I want to just go walk around?
I want you to walk around.
Okay. So help me guys on the audio. You keep an eye on that.
I got it.
I'm going to go walk over to the GoPro camera so that you guys can get a chance to see what's going on over here and turn this thing into a mobile. Now, we did have a wireless audio that we were going to work with. However, at the time, we didn't want to change too much. I've actually got this GoPro set up right now on a wireless transmitter. So,
oh, we just lost it.
So, oops, go back to 1. We'll wait for that signal to come back in
there
again.
There we go.
Oh, I know what it is. Oh, that's weird.
Martin is saying in the chat room that it's harder to get visual continuity with different screenshots from multiple cameras if you're using a virtual set and a green screen, i.e. when you go from shot number 1 to shot number 2 in a real set like this, you get the actual set. But if it was a green screen shot, then you would have to have your green screen very carefully calculated to have just the portion of the green screen that should show up behind. Will be interesting. That's going to be in vMix.
Are you switching?
Yeah. That's going to be in vMix 22, I think.
Well, we'll talk about some of that as well. Okay, it looks like I got my live feedback on again. Let's see.
There we go.
There we go. All right, so kind of give you a quick little walk around. We were talking about the setup over here. I actually set up another PC for vMix. Everything on here is actually touch screen. It's all set up so that I could just touch it, and it shows, again, going back to the principle of why I think I first got started with it to begin with. I wanted to create a touchscreen thing. So when we're doing a live show, I'm just hanging out on this stool with just switching back and forth and bringing up overlays. Audio is being covered. Cameras are being controlled through little pan tilt things. Right here, the camera has a Besco, 101. It's the common workhorse type of cheap $100 pan tilt mechanism that basically kind of has their own controller right over here. And then I've got a link set up on the link controller for the Sony camera, so I can do my zoom ins and outs. And you'll see this a lot more on the sports later on, but I use pegboards to be able to put things, to keep things together, so it's easier to pack, especially when it comes to stuff with power supplies and stuff like that. Teleprompter camera was kind of mentioned, was over here. We'll use that. And right now Tom is just set up. He's got his streaming and chat room going on over there. Yes, that is an R Zoom 16, but I'm not using it as an audio interface. Now normally I've had my lights posted up here until last night, and this morning when I checked to see after I got finished putting together the 6 screens, and it turned out that I was getting major reflection. Like right now you can see, even where the cameras are, the light is right now, you can see the reflection. And one of the things that you have to deal with when you're not dealing with green screens. So right now this light that I have that was shining on us here is in front of where the computer is, because the other thing you want to avoid is noise. One thing that worked out well with this studio setup is that it was so far behind the back of the building that you don't hear any road noise going on. And believe me, I had a studio on Hollywood Boulevard that had trucks going by all the time, and it was crazy. So I happened to luck out that this happened to be the same room that the comm closet was in. So I was able to put my PC over there, and let me see if I can get it a little closer here without losing a connection. And you'll see that I've got 2 triple heads to go, going out of a, I've got right now a Quattro 2000, which has 3 outputs, 1 DVI and then 2 display ports. So I'm using a DVI and a display port to DVI to be able to bring me DVI into the triple head. And then I've got some 15-foot DVI to HDMI cables that are running along the floor, up behind the curtains, and then up to power each one of the monitors. So we got that going on. And then the last thing I think is, you may notice this is just a tablet. When I do the shows for the Cox Cable Show, they're doing segments that have to be 8 minutes long. They get 20, if they do 2 or 3 segments, I wanted to be able to let the host be able to see. So I've set this up so that the host can see it from their camera. And this particular one, just look up presenter timers on your Android Play Store, and there might be something for Apple. It has a little bar that rises up here. It's blue until you get within the last minute or so. Then it turns yellow, and then when it gets within the last 10 seconds or so, it turns red to let you know to wrap up. So just a simple tablet, so nothing special with that. But I do hope to have a confidence monitor set up over here. Or we talked about maybe setting up I have an extra 40-inch we can put up here to put that multicam preview, so we can be looking at that. So with that being the case, I think I'm just going to, we've lost our wide shot from this point on. I'm just going to go ahead and put this down. I think I'm running out of power anyway. And we'll let you switch to you.
All right,
get
let's
back
see.
into place.
I'm in here somewhere. There we go. There we go. All right. Well, that, there's a lot packed into one room. Rich is saying it must be 100 degrees in that closet. I bet it's more than 100 degrees in that closet.
But it's also a comm room, so they actually have an AC vent going right into that closet.
Well,
itself.
there you go.
So
there you go. But that is a wise idea. If you're thinking about setting up a studio, whether it's at home or somewhere else, to think about locating your PC equipment in a remote space so that you don't have to deal with that background noise, that background hum, because it will affect the quality of your recordings. And in fact, what I found is when I listen to, a lot of times I'll listen to a YouTube video with earbuds, and I can hear even more background noise when I'm listening with earbuds than I do when I'm listening through the speakers.
Well, and what's neat, it's actually storage as well. I kept all the boxes for these monitors because, and I should bring those pictures up. Yeah, maybe bring it with Google Drive. Everything is designed to be portable. So let me bring up some of the, show you some of the behind the scenes stuff that I put up in the Google Drive. I'm going to go to that while you're talking, so I'll put the camera on you. Boom.
Well, it was really funny when we were setting up before. There's something about being in the same room with somebody as opposed to a virtual conversation over Zoom or Skype, because RJ was talking about setting up some shortcuts. And I said, okay, well, let's set up some shortcuts. What letter do you want me to assign them to? And he says, you don't have to assign them to a letter. And I said, well, how are you going to do it? He said, well, you can assign them to none. So actually, I learned something. Thank you very much. In vMix, you can assign a shortcut to none. And you say, why would I want to do that? Well, you can assign it to none, and then it will appear in the web controller so that you can control it with your phone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a key on the keyboard that might be accidentally invoked by typing or doing something on the keyboard. So I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you, RJ. That's going to go in my memory bank of many, many, many things. The other thing that we discovered is that when you can set up a series of shortcuts with the same triggering letter, and I shouldn't have used the word trigger because triggers are something different. You can set up a shortcut that's assigned to a certain key. You can assign multiple shortcuts to that same key so that if you press the key on the keyboard or if you press the key on the X key, it will execute all those different shortcuts. However, if you try to attempt that on the web controller, what we found out is that it has all the different shortcuts on the web controller, and you have to mash every one individually. So that may be a feature request that we ask for the future.
Exactly.
To somehow have the same effect that you can use on the keyboard also work on the web controller for those of you that are controlling your vMix productions remotely.
Well, let me show the behind the scenes because I took pictures at different segments, different times throughout the thing. What you see on the side there, I used to have 2 lighting tree stands and then a couple of Bafer clamps that I had used to be able to hold this DJ lighting I-beam bar. But then it was pulling me out about a foot more from the wall, and I already got less than 10 feet of space in here already, so I wanted to get some more space. So I was able to utilize these variables. They're used by photographers all the time for hanging backdrops, and basically they pinch between the it's like a zip pole would be. Now you'll see on the monitors here that what I've done is I've designed it so that basically they're hung hung plug and play. The one on this one in the center basically is what the two outside ones are. This one could be an outside one, but it could also go in the center because of the coupling going over here. I needed to be able to go around it. So so we've got two monitors set up with that double hook there, and we made it a little bit wider so that we can accommodate for the still hanging on the same amount of surface space, and then that single one. Now, when I was doing the 4 monitors across, I had no problem, but it turned out that I'm going to go to my desktop here so I can go full screen. There it is. Okay, desktop. All right. It turned out that my monitors turned out to be too wide for me. Oh, I can't believe I closed that out. Closed out the wrong folder, guys. So when I would normally, when I'm showing people, I would just take the monitor right off and say, hey, look, see, it's plug, hang, plug, and play, and I put it back in. But when I try to do all 6 monitors across, I was 1.5 inches short. So the only way I was able to do it was to be able to go ahead and pull out the sides and create a kind of a curved backdrop over here.
I like the curved look. That's a good look.
Yeah, well, look at it this way. I've got you can get a 70, 75-inch curved TV over at Best Buy for what, maybe $2-3 grand. I got a 10.5 foot wide screen over here, 120-inch diagonal. There you go. More so, probably even more than that, for about the same cost here. I'm going to pull that, show you some more behind-the-scenes stuff here as soon as I pull this up here. There we go, Google Drive, TV, yes, okay.
As you can tell, RJ has made good use of the various pieces of equipment that he's collected over the years and has been able to figure out how to reuse those as he moves from one level to the next level.
I just did it again. I can't believe I did that. Sorry guys, it's live TV, as they say. Okay, yeah, I wanted to give you a closer look at some of the other stuff behind the scenes, putting together. Those are Manfrotto, or not, Manfrotto super clamps with this hook. Normally the DJ lighting bar comes with these connections that basically can go around the actual lighting tree stand pipe itself. However, they wouldn't fit for these I-beams, so I had to use this hook concept, which actually worked out better in some ways because I'm able to double up on both the top and bottom and help distribute the weight a little bit better that way. Yeah, lots of close-ups. So what the 4 monitor setup looked like beforehand.
Oh, that's cool.
Without the curtains in the backdrop, you know. It's hard to get the bevels. I picked this TV also for a main reason was the fact that it didn't have, sometimes on the very edge, there's a little nubby underneath for infrared, and it would keep it from being able to go flush against each other. Right. Also, the bezel on this one was super thin. I mean, basically less than 1/2 inch right there. Between the two, it's not that much wider. You know, basically you've got 1/2 thumb in between, so it kind of gives it that that look of kind of that window look, especially when you're looking at it from that perspective, especially when you had all the other.
Well, and you've got these slightly overlapped too, don't you? There's probably a 1/2 inch overlap.
Right. Well, tell you what,
so it
with
reduces the bezel effect. Boris
when I tried to do the
asking
6, trying to get these all aligned are tough. Now there are some times where it's not really even flush up against here, but that's where the black curtain really came in very helpful because you don't have lightness coming through there. There's darkness. So this is definitely, even though it may look flat to you guys over here, we're looking at it. I could probably put my phone on top of there. Who knows? Because it's not quite lined up quite right yet.
Boris is asking in the chat room if you could share just a little bit more about the triple head and using two of them at the same time.
It's really not that difficult. There's two things that you need to make sure you're doing is that they've got to be the same firmware, and at least with the Matrox, it's doing a firmware update is very easy. It's all built in the program and it's automatic and backs up for you. I think firmware updates have gotten a little bit easier, except for the Sony 4K. I think some people had some problem with that camera, but otherwise, very easy. And just basically you have to have two outputs come from your graphics card, one for each, and the triple head can only do 3 on one row, and that's it. So these are considered two separate rows of monitors. If I was on the other actual one, I can actually show that to you. We don't have that one set up because we're in this talk show mode here.
Right.
And that's one of the, I don't know if that answers your question or not. Basically, cost-wise.
Because you've got some interesting stuff on that. Maybe if you get a chance, you could just do a little quick video that we can play when you come back on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about that.
Yeah, I can probably show you the cards and the Matrox.
Yeah, because you showed that to me before. It was really cool. A geek cool kind of stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah. We understand that.
Yeah, so this was last night trying to go ahead and put all this together, it was just crazy.
Oh, you just did this last night?
Yeah.
You've never used this before?
I've never done the six setup here. So,
okay.
So the crazy part was trying to get the get that curve just right. I mean, we're actually, instead of being flat against the wall, I'm actually about 21 inches on both sides away from the wall than I wanted to be. If I had a little wider space, I would be flatter and we'd be closer to the wall.
Gotcha. Ooh, those guys are putting out some heat too.
Yeah, well, now I've added 2 more to it as well, so that's definitely a lot big. I had to do this crazy thing where I had to buy a pan tilt swivel and be able to mount it on what was originally supposed to be flat mounted on the beam, and then have to try to make sure that the holes were aligned right for here and right for there.
Yep.
And then make sure that this part right here was tilted enough so that it would all work together.
Right.
And so I spent about 3 hours last night when I finally got a chance to
how late were you here last night?
Until about 11. So, but we got it done. So
Kenny's asking what software runs the video spanning.
Okay.
It's not a simple answer, Kenny.
Right. Now, there's 2 different ways of doing it. One of the other reasons I wanted to use the triple head to go is because I wanted to be able to do something with not VidBlaster, oh my gosh.
vMix.
With vMix.
Yeah.
That I could output to one large monitor, but vMix still sees this as one row and sees this as another output. So it was crazy, and I showed you what I did to be able to put that live video on both. I had to use both display 1 and display 2. Take display 1, move it down 50%, and then expand it 200% to fill up the top part, and then took display 2 on the bottom, shoved it up 50%, and then expanded it 200% so that we could fill at the bottom, and it looked like it's one seamless video.
And you had to use the vMix 4K or Pro versions in order to do that because you needed the 2 external.
Right. But if it wasn't for that, then I'd be only stuck with the 3 monitors, and that's about it. And then it would be no issue.
Stuck with 3 monitors.
But I wouldn't be able to
Poor
do
guy.
the portrait mode unless I rotate everything in vMix itself and then have it that way, which could be done. So my homework for Martin, for maybe you can add it into 19. I don't know if how far out are you on the beta on that. Is that I will say that one thing that, should I dare say it, that VidBlaster had was that you could actually create a separate monitor module. And I've done this before where I took that module out of the VidBlaster thing and put it over on, and it was able to span it across 2 monitors. So if we could do something like this, have an ability to be able to have a flexible output monitor on the screen, I would then be able to span over both sets of these monitors.
So that the output now becomes a module that
I'm spanning over desktop.
As opposed to something monitors. That just takes over the display altogether.
So that just opens up a whole door, because I don't know if when we tried doing it before and I was switching the backgrounds, I was switching top and then bottom, and then adding that, and then switching the top to show the video, but leaving the bottom as it was. So there were two separate things.
Yep. And Boris, what he was doing essentially was if you can imagine just using one monitor output and stretching it over 3 monitors. He's duplicated that with one on the top and one on the bottom. So it's 2 monitor outputs, each one taking up 3 monitors on a level. And then in vMix, telling vMix just show half of this frame on these monitors. And I applaud you. That gets the Tom Innovation Award for today. I'm going to give you a vMix.
Now, I wanted to be able to do it in vMix
pad.
because I wanted to be able to show a client's or presenter's presentation or embed video while we're doing live switching in vMix. However, you don't necessarily have to be able to do this in vMix. Like this screen right here right now is set up to span across all the monitors using a software called Display Fusion. Mm-hmm. And that, if you get the pro version of it, which is about $25, it'll allow you to do images or videos or even a web page. You can span a web page across all your monitors, which is, I don't know.
So is vMix sending its output into Display Fusion?
No.
Okay.
This Display Fusion, it has nothing to do with vMix at all.
Okay.
It's basically just for being able to spread your desktop, your wallpaper, I guess, across multiple monitors.
Okay.
But if I try to send a video source, it's still going to individual monitors. It's not going over all of them. So that's Display Fusion will allow me to do a video backdrop that'll display across it. To me it worked great until I tried using it on my machine here, and it was causing a lot of sporadic aspect of it with the video of my input from my quad capture card. So
so it would almost have to be a separate PC, wouldn't it?
Well, it's either that, or the thing is, before with the quad card, that was taken in the monitor, so the only other graphic card I could put in there was the one that was built into the motherboard. Mm-hmm. So right now, actually, my monitor is using that, and I'm wondering, and who knows whether it even has any GPU capability or how much it does have. So I was hoping, and when I swapped out and put my Quattro 2000 in there, which has I think 192 cores, that would work a little bit better. But I could see when we got all choppy that it didn't quite work as well as we wanted to. So
this guy's a one-man, one-PC guy. I can see it in him. He wants to do it all in one box.
Now that I'm using the Matrox triple head to go, which is not dependent upon the computer, it just depends on your card output. I'm trying to get either a 960 or well, actually, you were talking about a 760 before or something like that.
750 or higher.
750 or higher. 750, I think, also does about, I think 612 is what the second. No. That's my 960. That has 612 GPU cores. I'm wondering whether that's, I'm going to have to upgrade the graphic card now. I'm hoping so I can do motion video, so we can fake that we have a street scene behind us, or a beach scene, or a golf scene. I'm getting ready to do a golf tournament, so I'm going to be able to use some live video going on back there and cheat. Or it also allowed me to be able to put a solid color across them. So I've actually done green, chroma green on all of these, so then that way I can then cheat and then put a background in post-production or
and it
live.
just looks like a window.
It's just all green.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, you want to see what it looks like?
Jan has got a comment for you. It says you can do it with one full screen output, RJ, in vMix settings. Set the anyway. You can go back and read it. So there's a great idea.
Do you have a way of saving those at all?
Yeah. We leave the chat stays up for a week. So you can just go back and scroll through it.
Yeah, but do you actually save it to a file? I've always wondered that.
Nope.
No history. Don't.
It's
all right.
gone.
Whatever you said is gone. It's
After
gone
a week.
After a week. So good to
So
know.
go back and get it. Jan's got a great comment for you.
All right. So let's see.
Good idea, guys.
Okay. So as far as Martin is concerned, my top 3 things. One was the spanning module. That works out, and unless this other option, and I'm going to have to check that. This other option works out well.
Looks interesting.
Okay. Assignable audio.
Assignable audio.
I talked to you a little bit about this
my goodness.
before. Okay. So when especially when I'm doing the sports, and I'm doing multiple cameras and stuff like that, or even talk shows, and then we go to break, I don't want to have to mess with the audio mixer. I have to go turn down the live audio so that you can only hear whatever the bump is going on or the station ID is going on, and then come back over again. But if I set it up for automatic switching, all my audio is coming in through my one camera. So that one camera has my audio source, so I have to go ahead and click in VidBlaster. I have to click that audio and keep it on. So I have to either manually click it on or off, or manually go into the audio mixer in VidBlaster, vMix, and roll it down. Now, it'd be great not to have to worry about that, so that if I go to a commercial break, or I go to a station ID, or I go to a replay, or go to a video that has audio on it, and I don't want to hear the commentators, that if I could set everything up so that in the options for audio mix, automatically mixing, if camera 2 and camera 3 had the same audio as camera 1, if I can assign an audio from one source to be over my other 2 cameras, that way I can keep that option on and be able to switch cameras from camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and have the same audio from camera 1. And then when I go to play my station ID or a video, then that takes over and automatically transitions out of the other audio. And then when we come back from break, it brings it back in, and I'm not have to worry about messing with the levels. And also maybe able to assign another camera that audio, a virtual input from one camera, like a wide shot of a basketball court, so that when there is a timeout or a break or something like that, and the DJ starts playing music, one thing you don't want to do on YouTube, when streaming live to YouTube, is have copyrighted music playing on there, because next thing you know, later on that evening, they're going to cut your replay capability. You're not going to have it. So I've been trying to bring that down manually. But if I can assign another virtual input of a wide shot and have that assigned to some music going on automatically, it automatically would fade in, fade out when I switch to the regular cameras. Assignable audio, I think, would be kind of the coolest thing.
What a great segue, though, into our subject for next week, where we're going to be talking about copyrights. And we've got an attorney coming on to talk about the whole issue of copyrights and how to stay out of trouble with the law. And it sounds like you've got an idea that would do even better than having to deal with all the copyright issues.
Yeah, most people don't deal with copyrights until they get snagged, especially if you're dealing anything with YouTube, or even Facebook is starting to head that way as well. Didn't realize when you were talking, it was the camera was on me the entire time. So, what was my third one? I was trying to remember.
Did you write them down?
I did write them down, and I brought them in somewhere. It might be on my laptop, in my laptop case. I'll think about that for a second.
Well, you're coming back on the show
in
a couple of weeks, so we can get, and by that time you'll have had a chance to look at some of the other ideas that the guys in the chat room had about the multi-monitor scheme. Anderson saying he agrees with you about the audio.
Oh, yeah, that was it. The separate switching for output display. So then instead of having to go to the drop-down menu, click display one, select the input, or even just heading a shortcut for something like that, and when you do, it's going to be abrupt. There's no fade from one backdrop to another backdrop. So anytime unless I'm sending out to a display something going on, and especially if I'm recording a conference and I'm handling their AV, I've got stuff going. I've got the PowerPoint slides going up there, and then I want to put the sponsor slides up or something like that. It's a cut. But if I was able to go ahead and I have to do a drop down, select the input, and boom, it'd be great to be able to be able to assign either a little separate panel like your audio panel can come out that you can go ahead and set up which one of your modules or your inputs would be what you want to go next, and you can actually just fade into that by selecting it. I want everything to be touchscreen. And anything you got to do with a drop-down menu selection is too much for touchscreen. I just want to touch it and get back to my job.
Another great segue. This is the segue guy. If you've got a suggestion, and RJ's got 3 that you would like to see added to vMix, go to the vMix forum, and that's forums.vmix.com. There's a feature request section there where you can type in what your feature looks like. You can add pictures, you can add video, and make it as clear as possible. People will respond and ask questions. And if they like your idea, they'll respond with a +1, and that's how the guys, the brain trust at vMix, decide which features to include based on the amount of chatter that a particular feature request has. So if you're on the forum regularly, or even if you're not, go to forums, plural, forums.vmix.com and read through the feature request section. And so if you see something in there and you say, yes, I would like that for my vMix too, vote for it by adding a +1 as a post comment. If you don't express your interest, nobody's going to know. Even though RJ's been gracious enough to invite me to come in his studio and do my show, Martin Sinclair, my 19th cousin, is probably not going to take this as a formal request unless it's right there in the feature request section. So you need to get on the forum.
Well, as anything else, it's always timing is all a matter of necessity, and necessity also is a matter of pain factor.
Absolutely.
And then when
the more pain you feel,
this became another pain factor. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up on the show.
But you may have some good suggestions here in the chat. We'll have to go back and pay some more attention to that.
And that's the other reason why I brought it up, because maybe other people have similar experiences and have been able to come up with a solution for that.
Giles is saying that you probably could do something with triggers.
See, and I have to. I didn't.
There's so much to learn.
That's the thing about
it's like a video game. You just keep going to the next level, and the next level, and the next level, and then a new version comes out, and it's got more stuff in it.
Right.
Folks, thank you for spending so much time today. RJ and I got to go set up for a basketball game, and we're going to include some of that in our next.
We're not going to have a lot of time for chat.
Our next segment.
We got to go.
But hang around with us for just a very briefest of post shows, and we will come back and pretend to pay attention to you then. Do we have a way to get out of this?
As far as the automatic transitions?
Yeah. Do we have a way out?
I will try, but I don't think it's going to work.
I've got it.